Hi everyone, welcome to Wonderland session number 14. And today's Wonderland session is an expansion on what we learned last week. And last week's session was all about the things that are driving you and why those things that are driving you make you do crazy things, which is some stuff that I learned very recently from Tony Robbins. And the more that I learn about this subject of the 6 human needs, the more that I feel like I'm understanding the people around me and their motivations and why people are doing what they do. So today, we're going to go deeper into that subject, and we're going to look at some of the ways that we meet our needs in ways that are not sustainable and that are not positive, and look at how we could replace some of those methods or habits with stuff that is a little bit more positive, stuff that makes us feel truly more fulfilled. And that is the subject of today's session, how to be truly fulfilled. Sounds good. So if you have not yet seen Wonderland session number 13, which was last week's episode, I encourage you to look for it on YouTube and watch that video, because it really explains the concept of the 6 human needs and why they drive us and why we have them, and it really gives a good overview of that subject. But I'm going to go briefly into that today, and then we're just going to go a little bit deeper on the subject. So everything that we do is motivated by a need that we have, and everything that we do also has a consequence. So we have these 6 human needs that we meet in positive and in negative ways. And sometimes the negative ways that we meet these needs are because of something that we learned in childhood. It was a technique that we used back then and we realized that it worked or it felt good, and so it's something that we continue to do. But sometimes as we get older, those things that we were using to get that need met, we realize they're not actually that great, or they have really negative consequences, or they affect the people around us in terrible ways. And so we then have the opportunity to look at that behavior and ask ourselves, could I be doing this differently? So just briefly, the 6 human needs are certainty, uncertainty, significance, love and connection, growth, and contribution. So growth and contribution are spiritual needs. That's what Tony says. And they are kind of, there's no negative flip side to growth or contribution. They're pretty much good ways to go. And there's not really a negative side to them, but there are definitely negative sides to certainty, uncertainty, significance, and love and connection. So I'm going to go through each need briefly to give you a little overview, and then we're going to talk about what the positives are, what the negatives are, and kind of what happens if we go too far in one direction and what happens if we go too far in the other direction. So certainty is the need to be sure of things, to know where your next meal is coming from, to know that you have a roof over your head, to know that your partner is being honest with you, to know that you are going to get a paycheck next week, whatever. So all of those things are really basic human needs, and if we don't have those met, if we feel uncertain in our lives, then it can make everything feel really crazy and we feel very chaotic, and it impacts absolutely everything around us. So there's a lot of normal ways in which we meet certainty, right? So positive ways that we can meet certainty might be things like going to school and getting an education. And when you do that, when you have a degree, it gives you that sense of certainty within yourself that I've learned this, I've earned it, I know what I'm talking about, it makes me feel secure in myself. And that's something that you see a lot of people, especially in self-help, do. They take endless classes, endless courses, they're always getting certified for something new because it feeds that sense of certainty within them. And that's one way that you can get that feeling in a positive way. You can also have a feeling of certainty by having consistent routines. So whether it's going to the gym every morning or having a sacred morning practice or having a meditation practice. Another way that you can have a positive relationship to certainty might be eating in a particular way. So maybe if you're vegan or you are gluten-free or you do something that makes you feel good and makes you feel healthy and is also consistent, then that gives you a feeling of certainty too. And we can also get that feeling of certainty by staying or being in a consistent relationship, being in a consistent job or career. Those all give us that sense of stability. Even like having a dog, you know what I mean? It gives us that sense of certainty. It's something we can rely upon. It's something that's stable and concrete, and we know that it's always going to be there. But there's a negative side to too much certainty. And so some of those things are, staying in bad situations too long. So staying in a relationship that's not working, even though it's painful, you stay there because you crave the certainty of knowing that there's somebody there for you. Or staying in a bad job or career for too long. Again, it's like it feels so familiar that we don't want to leave, but we also know that it's kind of tearing our soul apart. It can also be avoiding challenges. So there might be some things in your life that you want to change, like maybe you want to get healthy or lose weight or move to a different city or something like that, but you're really afraid to take a risk and try something different, and so you avoid challenges. It could also be overeating, drinking too much, doing drugs. All of those things give you a certain result. You know how you're going to feel when you eat or drink or do drugs. You're going to get a hit of serotonin and you're going to feel good temporarily. So that can be a way of finding certainty in our lives as well, but in a negative way. And also controlling other people is a really huge way that we can feel a sense of certainty. So forbidding your partner or your children or whoever from doing this, that, or the other, having lots of rules around what's acceptable and what isn't, and being very rigid is another way that we can feel certainty in our lives. So that is one piece of the puzzle. And the way that this works is there are 6 needs in total. I'm going to go through them again. Certainty, uncertainty, significance, love and connection, growth and contribution. And we all have these needs at the same kind of capacity. We all need these things in order to feel fulfilled as people. But what happens is that we have different percentages of like what's more important at certain times in our lives. So maybe when you're younger, you don't need so much certainty. You're more footloose and fancy free, you're excited about life, you really don't crave much certainty at all, and so uncertainty or significance might be really, really high on your agenda. And then as you get older, things start to shift. So these things are always going to be in flux, and that's a very natural part of this, is just to kind of keep an eye on where you're putting most of your focus and then asking yourself some questions about it, which I will go through at the end of this little exercise. So let's go to uncertainty, which is the flip of certainty, obviously, and it's also kind of the paradox of certainty. So if you have too much certainty, then you won't have enough uncertainty, and vice versa. One of the negative things about having too much uncertainty in your life is that it can create a lot of worry, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. And then when you feel that way, it's quite common that you will then flip back to wanting more certainty. So it can be this consistent dance where you jump back and forth from one extreme to the other, where really the ideal is that you have kind of a smooth feeling balance of both. So there is a lot of positive things about uncertainty, and uncertainty is something that I crave a lot in my life. And you can kind of see that by the choices that I've made and the things I've done with my time on the planet so far. So positive ways that you can meet your needs for uncertainty include participating in competitive sports, traveling all over the world, meeting new people, and having new experiences. Even entrepreneurship, right, is very much an uncertain person's game. If you crave stability and a certain paycheck and, things to not really be in flux within your business, then entrepreneurship is probably not for you. So that's definitely someone who is like high up on uncertainty is going to be more likely to be entrepreneurial. And taking risks generally. So, for example, when I was 24 years old, I moved to New York City with like 2 suitcases. And, came over for just like a weekend and then decided I would stay forever. So that's kind of something that somebody who craves uncertainty would do, because you have no idea what's going to happen when you go to New York from Australia or New Zealand. And it's a big risky endeavor, and there's lots of uncertain things. There's lots of totally unknown factors, and that's what made it so exciting to me. But of course, again, there's a negative side to uncertainty, or when uncertainty drives you too much. So some of the negative ways that we meet our craving for uncertainty can be picking fights with other people because you never know what's going to happen. Self-sabotaging when things get too good. We like to rock the boat and fuck things up just to throw a wrench in the works and make things interesting. Gambling is definitely a way that we can meet the needs of uncertainty. Avoiding depth within our relationships or avoiding commitment, always wanting something new, never wanting to stick around. There's obviously more to it than that, but it's definitely a way that we can have that sense of uncertainty and variety in our lives. It keeps things spicy and interesting. Creating unnecessary drama with friends, co-workers, bosses, family members, boyfriends, girlfriends, and also having affairs. Like, that's an amazing way to get some variety in your life, and of course it's probably going to fuck up a lot of other things too. All right, so the next human need that we have is significance, and significance is about feeling important, feeling special, feeling like you're unique and different, and we all have a craving for that. And you can look at my arms and see that I am someone who really has prioritized a feeling of significance in my life for a long time. And again, there's positive and negative parts to this. So significance is the paradox of love and connection, which is the next human need. So when you need too much significance in your life, it's really common that you will feel a sense of loneliness. You'll feel a sense of social ostracization. You won't feel included, and you'll feel really different from other people in a negative way. And celebrities often, their significance level is so high, but they don't have a sense of deep connection with anyone. Their connections are shallow and fleeting, and so they feel really alone. And that's the paradox of significance versus love and connection. So some of the positive ways that we can meet our need for significance are achieving things, building things, learning things, creating things, providing for a family or a partner, being the best at something, achieving at a really high level, and, trailblazing, inventing things, creating new things in the world and leading revolutions. Like, all of those are amazing ways to meet your need for significance. But then the flip side of that, the negative ways that we can meet significance are tearing other people down. They always say, like, one of the first ways to become famous is to, like, create something amazing, or to be the person who shits on the person who does it. So tearing other people down is an amazing and really fast way to feel significant, feel important. Same goes for being judgmental of other people. That makes us feel so much better about ourselves, but not for long, right? It's not sustainable. It's something that is like a quick fix and then makes us feel shitty, because we know that that's not really who we are at as our highest selves. And then also having problems is a way that we can feel significant. So have you ever met those people who just constantly have a problem, and they have the same problem for 5 years, and then when they finally fix it, like, they're immediately onto a new problem? This is very common, and it's because having that problem meets some of their needs and makes them feel special. So the fourth human need is the need for love and connection. And again, something that happens a lot to people who are maybe in their mid-30s or thereabouts, they put such an emphasis on love and connection. They get married, they have a family, they settle down, and then they realize that there's like so much love and connection and so much certainty in their life that things start to feel really boring. And they're like, is this all there is? What's going on? Like, what have I done? And they feel like they're having, a midlife crisis or a quarter-life crisis, when really they're just missing variety or uncertainty, and they're missing growth, which is the next one, which is a spiritual need. So, of course, there are amazing ways to meet your need for love and connection. So, being helpful, being sociable, being kind, supporting other people, giving compliments on the street, being in a loving relationship, and doing your best to make it as amazing as you possibly can. Those are all ways that we can meet our needs for love and connection. But some of the negative ways that we can meet those needs are, being a serial monogamist and never being alone, always needing to be with a partner, or even lining up a new partner before you get rid of the old one, or joining a gang. Gang is about wanting to feel connected. And what we really want is to feel loved, but a lot of us will just settle for connection, and that can be very, very painful. So gangs are a way that we can kind of meet that need, but in a negative way, because obviously there are negative consequences to that. And also being inauthentic is a way that we can meet that need for connection. But again, it's not sustainable, it doesn't feel good, and it has really serious after effects, because after a while, you realize that you've abandoned yourself, and then it's all gonna go a bit pear-shaped from there. So, here's what I want you to do after we have talked about these 4 human needs. Here are some questions that you can ask yourself, and you might want to write these down. So if you have a pen and paper handy, I would recommend writing these down, because These are questions that will really help you understand what's driving you right now and why, and how you could change some of these things. So you might want to ask yourself, do I value certainty over uncertainty? And you might find that if you are valuing certainty over uncertainty, that you're also feeling a little bit bored. That might be the side effect of valuing certainty over uncertainty and variety. And then you want to ask yourself, do I value significance over love and connection? And if you're feeling that way, then you probably are also feeling a bit lonely, a bit isolated. So it's almost like you can follow your feeling and figure out which needs you're prioritizing over other ones. So am I feeling lonely? Well, probably this one. If I'm feeling bored, then probably this one. Does that make sense? If I'm feeling anxious, maybe I'm prioritizing uncertainty over certainty. And if I'm feeling, stagnant, then maybe I'm prioritizing love and connection over growth or variety. Does that make sense? So then you want to ask yourself, am I experiencing enough growth in my life? Is my life evolving and changing at the rate that I want it to? Am I improving as a person at the rate that I want to? What are the things that I want to change in my life, and how could I do that? Because any change is possible. As soon as you know what you want to do, then you can just Google it and figure it out. Like, it's so easy now to change things about yourself that you wish were different. But it's like, are you making the effort there? And if you're not, then why not? Where are you putting your attention instead? The next question to ask is, are your choices aligned with how you would like to live your life? So if you would like to travel the world and be an international nomad and, meet new people all the time and sleep on a different couch every night, then if you are locked into a pattern of certainty, it probably doesn't feel very good. You're probably sitting in an office feeling like you are being slowly choked to death. And if, on the other hand, all you really want to do is meet someone and settle down, but you are in a place of total flux and you can't find a partner and you don't know what you're doing with your work and your housing situation is unstable, then again, that'll probably make you feel like you are slowly dying. So it's important to think about whether your choices are aligned with what you want to be doing, and then make those choices different so that it all lines up. It's really simple when you look at it that way, but so many of us think there's something wrong with us if we, I have people write to me all the time and they say I have this amazing job, but it bores the shit out of me and I really want to travel the world, and all my friends tell me I'm crazy for wanting to leave this job. What should I do? And the answer is that you should always follow that desire that you have that's really important. And if you don't, you will feel like you're suffocating. And it also explains why you might feel differently about it than your friends do. Your friends want different things. They want more security. They want more stability. They want more certainty. Whereas you've had your fill of that and you want to mix it up. And that's totally fine. And again, like I said, these things will always be in flux. They will be changing all the time. So it's just good to pay attention to kind of where you are in the moment. The next question is, just, are your needs and your actions in conflict? So it's kind of the same question as before, but just a little bit of a reframe. So ask yourself, are your needs and your actions in conflict? And if they are, what could you do to kind of realign them? So I know that's a lot of information. I have a last little segment to drop on you that I think will be really helpful. So often when we are wanting to make a change in our lives, or we want to do something differently, we ask ourselves questions that are painful and that don't help us get to a solution. We ask ourselves questions like, why did this happen to me? Or why am I not good enough? Or why is this not working? And what we want to do is start asking ourselves questions that give us the potential to find solutions. So here's a series of questions that will help you move from where you are right now to somewhere that feels better and is more productive and can kind of just get you on that train towards where you want to go. So you can ask yourself, how do I get this need met? So your need for certainty, uncertainty, significance, or love and connection. How do I get this need met? And then you can write down a list of all the ways that you get your needs for certainty met, or uncertainty, or significance, or love and connection. And then for each one of those needs, you can ask yourself, why do I do this? Where can I trace this back to? Where did that begin? What was the purpose of doing it? What do I really feel like I'm getting out of that? And then you can ask yourself, how does that behavior make me feel? So when I do this, does it make me feel empowered, or does it make me feel shitty? Does it make me feel good about myself, or does it make me feel like I'm a terrible person and feel a lot of guilt? Then you want to ask yourself, how is it benefiting you? and how is it hurting you? So some things benefit us in the short term, right? So procrastination benefits us in the short term because we get that short-term pleasure, but the long-term effect is that we then start to feel pain, massive pain, because we're putting something off for a concerted amount of time, and then as the due date gets closer and closer, we feel more and more anxiety. So procrastination is something that feels good in the moment but doesn't feel good in the future. So we also want to be thinking about that. So how is this way that I'm meeting this need, how is it benefiting me, and how is it hurting me? Or another way of putting that is, what are the consequences of me doing this thing? Is it driving people away? Is my health problem getting worse? Am I, more behind on my bills than ever before because I'm prioritizing clothing shopping right now because it's a short-term pleasure over paying my bills, paying my invoices, or whatever? The next question is, do I want to continue doing this behavior? If you do, what is that going to look like? And is it really something that you feel is sustainable? You are a grown adult, and if you don't want to continue with a particular behavior, you don't have to. It's really as simple as making a decision and changing what your standards are around what you want to do and where you want to go. And then the last question is, what other behavior could I adopt? So what could I pick up instead of doing what I was doing? So for example, if you have been obsessing over controlling other people because you want that need for certainty, what you could do instead is have a really diligent gym routine, and that will give you that sense of certainty. Or you could start, eating in a particular way that feels really healthy. And it's another way of getting that need met, but it has a more positive aftershock. So the other thing about this is that, these are really big questions and you may have never thought about them before, and it's okay to feel a little bit like, holy shit, or for it to take a little bit of time for you to sort your way through them. That's completely fine, and take as much time as you want. Sometimes looking at this stuff can be painful, and it requires some radical honesty, because if you are going to look at these questions and then lie to yourself about them, then what's the point, right? So we really want to take some time and be really honest with ourselves and really clear about what's actually going on with us. But then to realize that we're not going to change everything overnight. As much as we might like to, we can't necessarily change everything in an instant. These things take a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, and it'll be a practice of noticing your behavior and then thinking about, oh, I want to correct this, and then correcting it. So the idea is to commit to continuous change and adjustment. So make the commitment to yourself that this is something that you want to change, and then continue to adjust and course correct every day until you feel like you're on a better track. And that's it. So that is my little brief on the 6 human needs, how we can get those needs met, how we can change them for other behaviors, and make ourselves feel better about what we're doing, ultimately feel more happy, more fulfilled, and more complete as people. Because like I said, we all have all of these needs. Wanting to feel significant or wanting to feel loved is not a bad thing. It's completely normal. It's completely human. But the question is, how do you go about meeting those needs? And others, the way that you're meeting those needs, is it hurting you in the short term? Is it hurting you in the long term? Is it hurting the people around you? Or is it something that's sustainable, that makes you feel good, that makes everyone else around you feel good too? And when we can really look honestly at these questions and what we're doing in our lives, then we really have the power to change things. We have to look at things in order to change them. So thank you for being here with me today. I hope this was enjoyable, and I would love to hear your thoughts on what we went through, and if anything stood out to you, I would love to hear about that. And I will see you next week with Wonderland session number 15. And as always, if you have questions, please be sure to DM them to me on Instagram or leave them in a comment on YouTube. I love hearing your questions and answering them and being really helpful to you. So please send them through. You're awesome. Have a beautiful day.